¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Can I see you a minute, please? Can I see you a minute, please?
Welcome to the Monday? Yeah, Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. Michael Hassler, Cosmic Seeking, Quadrarius Bennett. Welcome, everybody. Any good news today? I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We, the first female or first LGBT president for the Democrats in the future. Maybe. Maybe they'll put forth a candidate in the future. Are you feeling good? Like sick? No. Good news, we are still here. Yeah, I guess. we're definitely here. Wherever here may be. All right. Let me make sure we've got everything going here. I think I'm missing one more article. Here we are. Okay. Do you have winter weather? Well, we have winter, but not if you're referring to like the storms. No, there's no like winter storm going on over here at this time that I know of. All right, folks, let me go ahead and get some of this started. Hey, Echo Resto Dragon, how's it going? I do have a meeting later today, so I will try to get through as much of these headlines as possible. The GOP are being corrected on Meet the Press and Face the Nation, but I do not want the GOP to get smart. I don't want the GOP getting smarter. What do you mean corrected? I mean, if they're wrong, they're wrong. Not that it matters to them anyways. All right. Let's get into some of these, let's get into the news, yeah?
This episode, and others like it, are brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support this channel, join our patrons-only Discord, and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. Every week on this channel, I focus on critiquing a different aspect of capitalist society. And every week, I get comments telling me that I'm not doing my job. Because it turns out that what I'm critiquing isn't actually capitalism. No, none of this is capitalism, stupid YouTube man. It's corporatism. Or better yet, it's crony capitalism. Or actually, it's the very trendy techno-feudalism. Real capitalism is basically perfect, so if anything is wrong, it's probably because of something else with a different name. In this video, I'm going to be debunking that idea as thoroughly as I possibly can, because I'm pretty tired of getting these misguided comments. It's not corporatism, it's not crony capitalism, it's just plain old capitalism. Let's start with the definition for crony capitalism, because although these comments tend to use the word corporatism, unless the US recently began running its economy on a model of tripartite negotiations or instituted a guild-based system of differentiated welfare and privileges, corporatism is the wrong word. So crony capitalism it is. Wikipedia says, crony capitalism, sometimes called cronyism, is an economic system in which businesses thrive not as a result of free enterprise, but rather as a return on money amassed through collusion between a business class and the political class.
Right, but like, that's just capitalism. In fact, there is no such thing as the free market. There's no such thing as free enterprise. That's not a thing. Doesn't exist.
This is often achieved by the manipulation of relationships with state power by business interests rather than unfettered competition. Then it lists out a couple ways that might happen and sums it up: money is then made not merely by taking a profit in the market, but through profiteering by rent-seeking using this monopoly or oligopoly. So now that we have a good idea of what these people are saying...
Right, but a movement towards monopoly is kind of built into capitalism. That's the end goal. The point of capitalism is not more competition, actually. It's less. If you really think about it. Do you think, like, capitalists, like, Jeff Bezos is going around hoping for more competition? Do you think that, like, do you think that Jeff Bezos is happy at more competition? No. What does Amazon do whenever they roll in? They destroy small businesses. What happens when, like, a Walmart rolls in? They destroy small businesses. Their goal is not to have good, healthy competition. It's quite the opposite. Cronyism is just a symptom of capitalism, true.
Let's get three things clear. One, I have an a priori objection to capitalism. I don't just focus on capitalism's consequences on this channel, I think it's a messed up idea at its core. Capitalism, crony or not, is an economic system where a tiny, unelected minority of people get the vast majority of people to work for them so that they can get wealthier. You might think that's alright, I happen to think it's wrong. The place we spend most of our waking hours...
And the only reason that can happen is through influencing the political part. So it's not just cronyism, it's that capitalism encourages that kind of behavior because that's how you get to the status of the Jeff Bezos in the world. Economists and historians and political economists and sociologists have adopted different perspectives in their analysis of capitalism and have recognized various forms of it in its practice. Sure, but that's nothing to do with what I'm talking about, or what Second Thought's point is. The point is that, like, I think that, as you mentioned earlier, misguided comments about, like, you're not actually critiquing capitalism, this isn't capitalism, what you're actually doing is X, Y, or Z, is not really correct. It is capitalism. What system do we currently live under? What is the predominant system across the world? Across the, not just here, but across the planet? What is the predominant economic system? Capitalism.
Is run by a guy who has to prioritize profit over everything else, including the well-being of the people that work there. Under capitalism, you have the choice between working for the unelected guy, beating the odds and becoming the unelected guy yourself, or starving. None of that particularly appeals to me. I also happen to think that business acumen shouldn't be a justification for power. Just because Elon Musk is a business super genius, just look at how well he's handling Twitter, doesn't mean his decisions should matter more. The same way that the divine right of kings was a BS justification for feudalism, I think democracy should apply to the economy. Crony or not, capitalism isn't something I support.
If you're a homeowner in Georgia and you're still paying for electricity, then
2. The things that ANCAPs and libertarians complain about with crony capitalism, like monopolies and oligopolies, companies that can basically get away with whatever they want, are natural consequences of the pure free market capitalism they defend.
Right, but I would even go a step further and say that it is what they want. Does capitalism require graft and corruption and mobs and criminal behavior? I mean, yeah, kind of. On behalf of the rich, yeah. It requires corruption because the rich buy government to bend the rules or to make the rules more amenable to them. A lot of rich people do engage. A lot of rich people do engage in crimes like wage theft. So yeah. That ad tried to dox me. To be fair, I have mentioned that I'm somewhere in that state, to be fair. So I've already taken the self-L a while ago. Does not graft, corruption, and criminal behavior may occur anywhere in any company. I don't know what that means. Do companies are companies engaged in criminal behavior? Yes. I'm not all companies, but a lot of them, especially the big ones, do. We literally went over an article where PG&E is about to go in court to determine whether or not they had a hand in the wrongful death of people because of their failure to maintain equipment which caused a fire. I mean, yeah. Are you an American? I'm whatever I want to be. How about that?
When companies ruin competition, it's not necessarily because of something the state does. Free market competition always leads to this scenario where a few corporations dominate and extract rent. Monopolies inevitably...
But antitrust laws are probably are not enforced. And why is that? It's because the corporations engage in lobbying and corruption.
develop within capitalism. And whether they got that status with the help of the state or on their own doesn't matter. They are still a monopoly. They still do whatever they want. It still sucks. 3, there's no such thing as a free market in the first place.
Thank you.
The distinction
Alio with the 11 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
between crony capitalism and pure capitalism is based on the vague idea that crony capitalism is when government too big. At some point, one that is impossible to precisely define. There's too much state intervention, and that's why it all goes wrong. At least that's the idea. ANCAPs incorrectly believe that there is such a thing as capitalism without a state, and libertarians are vague about the amount of state intervention they deem to be okay. And as a result, anytime something bad happens, it can just be chalked up to too much intervention, called crony capitalism, and they continue to clamor for small government.
Right. And it's funny because, like, the same people who are complaining about government intervention, I wish there was a federal aid for leaving the country. No, there's a I could have sworn there was like certain programs for expats, but I'm not sure. Hold on, I had a thought and now I...
ANCAPs incorrectly believe that there is such a thing as capitalism without a state, and libertarians are vague about
Yeah, so, the contradiction here, that's what I wanted to say, is that, like, people like the libertarians, well, the right-wing libertarians and the, ANCAPs, which is really a meme ideology, is completely contradictory because what makes capitalism go and what makes, the current system go is government. It's government infrastructure. That's what props up capitalism.
The amount of state intervention they deem to be okay.
Government regulations or lack thereof.
And as a result, anytime something bad happens, it can just be chalked up to too much intervention, called crony capitalism, and they continue to clamor for small government.
No, the market will not correct it. The market isn't incentivized to correct anything other than more wealth at the top. That's it. The market doesn't correct anything. Not that I've heard of, but if you know of such, please PM me about it. Maybe. I mean, I could just be wrong. I could just be wrong.
But there is no such thing as markets without a state or without intervention, because markets don't exist in their own little world. All capitalism will involve state intervention. That intervention will necessarily benefit some at the expense of others. Companies will always find ways to influence that.
Right, because, well, who provides the infrastructure for your company to exist? The government. That's it. How do you deem? Who says that the company, that company X is actually owned by you? Who says that? Who dictates that? Who dictates the legality of whether or not you own the name A Difficult Truth? Just to give you a BS example. Who dictates whether or not you own Amazon? The government does.
Process to their benefit by using strategies like capital flight or capital strikes. And that means capitalism will always inevitably be crony. Therefore, the distinction doesn't matter.
Who, like, again, when you get a property title to, let's say, a car, Small example. Who dictates that? The government. When you get a property deed to, let's say, your house, who dictates that? Who says and who stamps? Okay, this belongs to X person. The government. The same with businesses. The very essence of capitalism doesn't exist without the government. There's no such thing as a free market. Not really.
Let's start with the point about monopolies. Regardless of state intervention, collusion, or whatever, monopolies are an inevitable feature of capitalism. And that's because all companies want to monopolize. When it comes to making more profits than everybody else, which is the prime directive of every single capitalist, becoming a monopoly is clearly the way to go. When you're a monopoly,
Correct.
or don't have meaningful competition, prices are whatever you say they are.
Right, and that's what you want as a company. It's the Morton, how's it going? Companies lobby the government so the laws can favor the companies, and it's a big circle jerk. Exactly, it's a feedback loop, so to speak. It's exactly correct.
Work conditions are whatever you decide them to be.
Correct.
And profit margins are pretty much up to you. Every company is gunning for the #1 spot, and in a competitive market, somebody will eventually get it. It's a zero-sum game. If you are less profitable than your competition, only a couple things can happen. You will gradually either be phased out and fail, because your competition attracts more investors who just follow the higher rate of returns, or your competition will buy you out before that happens. And if horizontal integration isn't an option, companies will integrate vertically and own every part of the manufacturing process to run a leaner business. As they get larger, whether they acquire vertically or horizontally, companies benefit from economies of scale. They have better prices because they buy in bulk or control production from the start.
Yep, and everyone's just cool with it. Yeah, very exploitative system, inherently.
They have more money to invest into R&D to stay ahead of the pack, and they have a bigger market share thanks to a more powerful advertising strategy. The rich get richer, and what starts out as a fair competition rapidly descends into monopoly or oligopoly once someone gets an edge and the means to hold on to it. Google and Facebook aren't going anywhere anytime soon because they have hundreds of mergers and acquisitions under their belts. And just look at Walmart. It starts out with a single local store, then it becomes a couple stores in a few towns, then a couple hundred. And soon enough, over 2 million people are working for the same company, making so little that even full-time workers need to be on food stamps. Mom and pop shops can't compete with their low prices. At the end of the day, monopoly...
Right, which is exactly what I was saying. I just jumped the gun with it, but yeah, companies like Walmart roll into town and just destroy all the small businesses because they don't like competition. Capitalism is not about competition. Capitalism isn't about free enterprise. Capitalism is about the magic of the invisible hand of the market or whatever bullshit. It's not about that.
Or oligopoly is inevitable when there are winners and losers in a competitive market, because the winners take over what they used to share or compete over with the losers. Antitrust regulation makes this a little better, but that's state intervention, so not a great argument against crony capitalism. And even with antitrust laws in place, oligopolies form all over our economy. Big tech is dominated by just a few corporations. So is mass media, telecommunications. Online shopping happens almost exclusively on Amazon. And of course, the food and beverage business is dominated by just a handful of brands. In theory, innovation is supposed to combat this effect a little bit. But now that tech startups have realized it's more profitable to be bought out by Meta than foolishly try to outcompete it, innovation isn't going to change all that much either. Only massive breakthroughs can change the hierarchy, the way the internet did in the late 90s and early 2000s. But whether IBM or Google is on top doesn't matter if it's still an oligopolistic system. It's still gonna suck. There is no version of capitalism that respects competition, but not competition's outcomes. If your idea is to turn the clock back to when there was more competition, it'll only be a matter of time until we're right back here. It's not a solution. So now let's talk about state intervention and regulation. There's no capitalism without a state, and no avoiding collusion between the state and corporation.
Correct, which is what I said earlier. Just to be clear, I did not pre-watch this video, okay? Just to be clear, I did not pre-watch this video. OSHA does exist, but Maryland has most laws to favor the companies. Yeah, but again, all these regulations are fine, and there should be more, but, you know, at the end of the day, companies can, you know, either throw the cost of whatever fines they get as part of doing business, or if they don't get enforced, then they continue to commit these violations, you know, crimes. How many violations have we seen Amazon do against their workers in the warehouses? How many workers have gotten seriously hurt working in those warehouses? How many have died? Remember that natural disaster that happened maybe a year ago, 2 years ago? Maybe
The prime function
maybe longer.
of the state in a capitalist society is creating an environment where businesses are profitable. The state depends on the profit of the capitalist class. It delegates the responsibility of organizing the economy to capitalists. And in turn, capitalists depend on the state to make sure that the conditions are right for them to profit. At the most basic level, that means the state needs to be there to enforce contracts. In the background of every business contract, there is the state to make sure both parties follow through. Behind the ownership of a business, there is also the state, making sure that someone with a stockpile of guns doesn't knock on the door and take it over. The police and the legal systems are there to provide a baseline arrangement to make sure that violence between capitalists doesn't happen outside the rules of business. But now, what counts as the rules of business? Those have to be defined. Is it state intervention if the government fines a company for taking over another one the wrong way? That's a tricky question. It's not clear what it means to uphold private property rights in practice. And what about intellectual property? In some places, the state protects patents, and in others it doesn't, because for some countries it's more profitable not to enforce them. Isn't the state intervening in the economy as soon as it makes that decision?
Yep.
The reason you could argue it either way is because there are no natural conditions on which to base an economy. Economies have to be created. States in the past couple hundred years since capitalism began have had to and still continue to make decisions. They facilitate trade by creating a currency, taxing in that currency to give it value, setting rules for proper engagement, and enforcing those rules.
Yep, what he's describing as to how the money system works is effectively MMT.
In short, they need to intervene because without their intervention, there'd be no economy to speak of. If you go one level deeper, the state's intervention is absolutely necessary to maintain the exploitation of people under capitalism.
Yeah, that's literally what I just finished saying a few minutes ago. Maybe I should just let the video play.
Capitalism is incredibly exploitative and incredibly unequal. Most people work long hours and live right on the edge of poverty, while a tiny minority work no hours and fly their private jets to their fifth mansion.
Yeah, I mean, well, because it's the inevitable outcome of a system that encourages this kind of behavior. Yeah, no shit.
In order to keep this machine turning and stop it from imploding on itself French Revolution style, you need a state to shape the cultural consensus that capitalism is valid and necessary, and a police force and legal system to give muscle to the enforcement of capitalist relations.
Great ideas can come from anywhere.
If I had to summarize that with just 2 quotes, the industrial laborer works for and is exploited by the factory owner. And when he organizes in opposition, in comes the policeman who breaks his bones, the sheriff who evicts him, and the judge who jails him. And accumulation, because it is based on exploitation, cannot be sustained at the level of the individual producer-employer alone. It requires legal, ideological, and cultural institutions. It needs state organs and other power organizations. It has to be framed, shaped, and contained from above. In short, it requires the political power of—
What? She's a small tuber? She's got 8.3k subs. I have, what, 215? I think she's doing alright. It looks like she has just started. Not too long. She knows definitely how to do the game. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Well, yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Of a nation state. So now that the state exists, and it has to for capitalism to continue, how are capitalists going to take advantage of it? Are they going to finance the campaigns of the candidates they like? Collude with politicians and make shadowy deals?
Yes.
Become elected themselves and go through the revolving door so that they can run the country in whatever way helps their business?
Yes.
Sure, they could do all that, and they do, but they don't have to get the same results. If businesses are unhappy with something the government is doing, they just stop investing and the economy—
I know what it is. To be born homeless, what possible system would guarantee that no exploitation would ever not occur? I mean, that's kind of like a silly hyperbolical scenario. There is no such thing where you could guarantee that. Not at 100%. But the current system that's predominantly capitalism is clearly not working. It's clearly exploitative. So at the very least, we should be questioning it, and at the most, we should be attempting to find alternatives. Maybe we shouldn't have an economic system that only is geared at the profit motive.
goes into a tailspin. No need to influence the government in a crude way. Capitalists just go on an investment strike or they simply invest in another country. The government tends to want to avoid that, so it usually doesn't even get to that point. And just like that, the state and businesses colluded without anyone accusing them of cronyism. Some businesses will benefit from it, others won't. The outcome is the same as if there had been a bribe or an exclusive contract. Except this is real capitalism because all the state did was guarantee the conditions for profitability, which any libertarian will tell you it should. Ultimately, as long as you have private property—
Which is funny because also libertarians will argue that there shouldn't be some type of like federal governmental body. You know, okay, so which is it? You can't have it both ways, and we already know that it's that the way this system works, it's not possible without some kind of state apparatus. Essentially, what libertarians end up doing is rebuilding government. That's it. I'm not trying at all to be hyperbolic. Well, you should know that, like, speaking in absolutes, saying that there's a what possible system would guarantee that no exploitation would ever not occur? I mean, that's just, it is not unrealistic, but yeah, I would want to use that word. I mean, of course, it's human nature. You're gonna have problems with whatever system. It's like the reason why we advocate for a single-payer healthcare system, it's not because it's perfect, but it's quite possibly the better option especially given the types of choices that we have. A single payer system would be infinitely better than the system that we have now. Is it perfect? Probably not. Is it going to have issues? Probably. But it's worlds apart than the system that we have now. But libertarians want to have their cake and eat it too, and have more being delivered on demand. True. What is a single payer healthcare? Is it like the NHS? A single payer system is exactly what it sounds like. It's where the government is the single payer for that healthcare system. In other words, there's a national federal system that is the one that's funding as a single payer to fund and create a healthcare system for all. Think about like Medicare. Almost, it would almost be kind of like a Medicare that would be for everybody, not just people over 65 or people over I think it's 65. It's kind of like that. A single payer system is just a healthcare system that has one single payer, the government. That's it.
The profit motive, and wage labor, you have capitalism. That those basic elements lead to objectionable things doesn't make them any less capitalistic. Capitalism isn't a neutral economic system. It always ultimately favors those who sit at its helm. So when that means screwing over the vast majority of people, that is always the direction it will go.
Yeah, because it's not interested in the people. It's not interested in anything else other than, is decision X going to make line go up? Yes or no? That's it. I'm in the UK, so yeah, it's what we have and it's awesome. Nice. There's no free market solution for healthcare. Yeah, it's not working. It doesn't work. There's numerous reasons as to why. Like even if you want to go down like the econ bro route of like a privatized healthcare system, it just doesn't work. There's no such thing, and it has multiple points of failure. I mean, well, starting with the fact that inelastic demand automatically creates the environment for market failures. So yeah, inelastic demand. The information is not equal to the consumer. The consumer does not know and cannot, or usually it's a lot harder to find the information when it comes to actual prices, even if you were to take that route. There's just a lot of points of failure. A private healthcare system is just bad. It just doesn't work. It sucks. The only people who get good healthcare are people who have money, and that's about it. Even like job healthcare, well, now you're beholden to your job. You're not guaranteed it, and you could be fired tomorrow. That's bullshit.
As one final analogy, and this is how I usually explain it to commenters, you wouldn't call stage 4 cancer a different disease than cancer. It's simply the progression of the same disease. No matter what perverse, mutated versions of capitalism appear, if the economic base remains the same, if the profit motive is still the driving force, we live under capitalism. You can call it what you want, but that won't change reality, nor will it solve the problem. The problem is capitalism. I mentioned at the beginning.
Based. All right. Privatizing anything has built-in economic inefficiency because there's always a motive for profit, which depletes the resource. Right. But yeah, and especially true with things that we don't really have a choice in, like, housing, food, healthcare. It might be the cynic in me, but I think the real reason we haven't switched to a universal healthcare is because there would be less motivation for people to enlist in the military. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, well, that may be a byproduct of it. Maybe. I think one of the major drivers is that it would give power to workers and to people across the board, not just to disincentivize people from enlisting in the military, which I guess could be. I'm not much sold in that as much as I'm convinced that if people got universal health care, it would essentially wipe out a big part of the privatized, insurance business. It would wipe out a lot of that, which that can't happen because the big insurance companies have lobbied against the universal healthcare system for a long time. But it would give more power to workers that wouldn't be at a shitty job because they happen to have healthcare. I think that is another driving force as to why there's so much pushback against the idea of some kind of universal healthcare system.
Thank you for clicking this video. I assure you, you have not made the worst mistake of your life. This video explains the definitions of communism and socialism, the ways they are similar and the ways they are different. And it discusses the controversy about their definitions, because people just can't seem to agree on what these things mean. Socialism and communism are terms that create a lot of confusion. Different people define these words in very different ways. To give you just a little idea of how complicated things are, the 1924 book Dictionary of Socialism contains 40 definitions of socialism. It might seem like the best way to find the truth is to find out the definition that is used by socialists. But that's part of the problem. Even the people who call themselves socialists don't agree on how to define socialism. Even socialists have multiple definitions of socialism.
Well, because there are different variants and flavors. I mean, it's still at the end of the day some type of socialistic idea. But yeah, I mean, if somebody asks basically what is socialism, is essentially the workers owning the means. The workers owning the means of production. That's it, essentially. As bare minimum of a definition or as bare minimum of a concept, it is essentially the workers should own the means of production. That's it.
Well, damn, now we're really in a pickle. But don't worry, this video is a pickle destroyer. It will make sense of the confusion, explain the competing definitions, and clarify what these terms actually mean. And if you'd like to check my sources, I've put them in the video description. Shit, the pickle went flying everywhere. Where's the rest of this motherfucker? Part 1. Defining communism. Let's say you ask a random
Communism is when the government does stuff.
To define communism.
Communism is when the government does a lot of things. That's what communism is. Yeah?
We'll call this random person Norm. So, you say to Norm, Norm, what is communism?
Well, that's obvious, says Norm. Communism is a society with a centrally planned economy that's controlled by the state, and a state that's controlled by a dictatorship of a single political party.
That's not even 100%.
And also, communist regimes don't allow most civil liberties and are quick to silence and punish those who express dissent and opposition.
All right. Thank you, Norm, for explaining to us what the average random person on the street thinks. But what if you ask a communist to define communism? You will get a very different answer. If you want the communist definition of communism, one of the best descriptions comes not from a communist, but from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
The economics of the future are somewhat different. You see, money doesn't exist in the
it's a moneyless classless society. More or less.
For a century.
No money. You mean you don't get paid?
The acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
There it is, folks. Proof that Star Trek is communist propaganda. Communists define communism as a society that is stateless, moneyless, and classless, where everyone owns the means of production and workers control production.
This idea of communism is extremely different from the system that existed in the Soviet Union and in other countries governed by a communist party. In other words, it's extremely different from Norm's definition of communism. Most people think
again,
of
the GOP
communism
says
as a
socialism
highly
is
authoritarian
yeah, and the
society,
Democrats are socialists,
but
blah, blah,
communists
blah,
define
blah, blah, blah,
communism
blah.
as exactly the opposite. A free society, with no state apparatus, no authoritarian control. A society of freedom. Well, that's strange. Like, what the hell is up with that? How can it be that the way communists define communism is so very, very different from how most people define it? I'll explain why soon. But first, let's explain the meaning of each aspect of the communist definition of communism, starting with the term stateless.
Stateless means there is no state. People often use the word state as a synonym for government, and it's not necessarily wrong to do this, but there is some distinction. The state is the set of institutions that enables government to rule by force. It enables a small fraction of the population to rule over society, with the power of armies, police, and prisons to force the population into submission. In other words, the state is that which enables the few to rule over the many. In the communist definition of communism, this no longer exists. Instead of people being ruled by a state, people govern themselves. Everyone is free to participate in making decisions on issues that affect them, and no group is given the power to force others to obey its will. Not too long ago, I was having a conversation with someone about all this shit, and they said to me, I don't think communism is necessarily stateless, because anarcho-communists and libertarian communists are anti-state. So if communism is always stateless, then anarcho-communism and libertarian communism would be redundant, right? Well, I'll tell you what I told this person. All communists agree that communism is stateless, but anarcho-communists and libertarian communists believe the process of creating communism must be done without a state, while other types of communists believe the state is needed as a tool for creating communism. In other words, some communists think the state will help us create communism, but others don't. They think it will actually hurt the process of trying to create communism. Okay, so I hope that made sense. Now let's look at the next feature of communism. Communism is moneyless. Moneyless means there is no such thing as money. No money also means no profit motive and no market economy. Goods and services are no longer sold for financial gain.
Instead, goods and services are distributed based on people's needs. As the slogan goes, to each according to their needs. And the word needs is defined more broadly than just the things you need to survive. It includes things you need for a high quality of life, what you need to survive and to thrive.
When communism is fully developed, all products and services are free, and people work without being paid. People work because they want to. All work becomes voluntary.
The next feature of communism is that it is classless. The word classless has more than one meaning, and one of those meanings has nothing to do with communism. Classless can be an insult that means the opposite of classy, as in, yo mama's so classless, she could be a communist utopia.
That joke is old and overused. Kind of like yo mama. And if I'm being honest, kind of like me. But classless, as it applies to communism, means that there are no economic classes. For thousands of years, humanity has been divided into separate classes, with a minority ruling class that enriches itself off the work of the majority laboring class. Slave owners enriched themselves off slaves, feudal lords enriched themselves off serfs, and capitalists enriched themselves off workers.
True.
All of these are class divisions, and eliminating class means eliminating these divisions, so that humanity is no longer divided between exploiters and exploited. Next feature of communism, everyone owns the means of production. So, what are the means of production? They're everything we use to produce goods and services, and also distribute them. Factories, mines, farms, power plants, railroads, natural resources, and so on. They're what we use to produce food, housing, chocolate, movies, phones, every damn thing. In communism, the means of production belong to everyone, which also means they're owned by no one. This is very important, because this is what makes it possible for communism to be classless. Another feature of communism is that workers control production. In other words, workers control their own work and are not under anyone's command. No capitalist bosses, no government bosses, no bosses, period. Workers are liberated from command and coercion. So that is a very basic definition of communism, as it is defined by communists.
True.
Now let's review and summarize both definitions. On the one hand, most people define communism as a society where one single party controls the state and the state controls the economy. And on the other hand, communists define communism as a society where the state does not exist, class does not exist, money does not exist, private or exclusive ownership of the means of production does not exist because the means of production belong to everyone, and command and coercion over workers does not exist, where workers are free and liberated from that shit. Just look at how extremely different these two definitions are. The most obvious difference is the state. In one definition, the state has supreme control. But in the other definition of communism, the state has no control because the state does not exist. So, how did this happen? How did such radically different definitions come into existence? To answer that, we need to investigate the origins of where each definition comes from. Let's start with the definition of communism that communists use. Where does it come from? It comes from the writing and ideas of communist political philosophers since about the 1840s, with the most influential and well-known among them being Karl Marx, who looks like this. Or if you're a regular viewer of my channel, he looks like this.
I'm too sexy for my cat.
Marx was extremely influential in determining the definition of communism, but other political philosophers had an influence too, like Peter Kropotkin. I mention Kropotkin for two reasons. First, and also foremost, because his beard is equally as good as Marx's beard. No question. And also because he's probably the best known anarchist communist of the 19th century, and anarchist communism is a branch within the communist movement that is distinct from Marxism. Anarchists and Marxists have some big disagreements, but they agree on how to define communism. Here are some quotes from both Marx and Kropotkin, which show you that they both defined communism as a stateless, classless, moneyless society with common ownership of the means of production. If you want to read it, just go ahead and press pause, and I promise to be here when you get back. I swear that I won't abandon you, my dear viewer. Hello again. See, I told you I'd still be here.
So, communists get their definition of communism from the writing of communist philosophers. Makes sense. But what about the definition of communism that most people use? One-party government, state-controlled economy. Why does anyone think this is communism?
Yeah, to be fair also...
Explain yourself, Norm.
To be fair also, like, obviously, Marx and Kropotkin weren't the only ones, but I guess it's just kind of easier to, for the sake of time, to just use them as, like, the primary faces.
Well, it's because it describes the system that existed in countries where the Communist Party was in power, like in the Soviet Union. So it's understandable why a system that has existed in places ruled by a communist party would determine how people define communism. But hold on a minute. If communists define communism as stateless, then why did communist parties around the world create societies where the state exists?
Right, no need for info overload, especially when, like, I assume this is a little bit more geared, this is a little bit more geared towards, like, people who are trying to understand what these words mean.
And has so much power and control. If communism is classless and moneyless, then why did communist parties create societies with classes and money and inequality? Why did they create societies where bosses command and workers obey when communism is supposed to bring that to an end? Now here's where things get interesting. The leaders of these communist parties will be the first to admit that the systems they implemented in their countries are not communism. Lenin and Stalin, for example, were very clear that the Soviet Union was not communist. And likewise, the Communist Party of China does not call China communist. The Communist Party of Cuba does not call Cuba communist. No communist party in the world calls the country it governs communist. Well, that seems weird. Communist parties creating a system that is not communist? What's going on? If you asked this question to Lenin or Stalin or Mao or Castro, they would tell you, "We call ourselves the Communist Party because communism is our goal, but reaching that goal takes a long time. Our countries are not yet ready for communism, and our job as rulers of these countries is to create the societal conditions that will eventually make communism possible. And we believe the way to do that is to take supreme control of the state and then use that state power to mold and shape society in ways that move us towards that goal. So, the system we created in our countries is not communism, but it's a system we believe will lead us down the path to eventually create communism." Now, not all communists see it this way. There are other communists, such as anarchist communists, libertarian communists, council communists, and libertarian Marxists, who roll their eyes at this and say, "Ha! You communist parties will never create communism."
Yeah, I didn't even know that these were even denominations, like libertarian communists. What? Libertarian Marxists? I've never heard these terms in my life until today. Books versus theory versus practice versus actual systems. I mean, sure. She has 3-hour one with way more differences. Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah, you would need quite a while to really get into the weeds of this.
By having a totalitarian dictatorship, or even just by having a state, you sabotage any hope of creating communism. The leaders of communist parties have enormous power and privileges, so they have no interest in creating communism, because creating communism would mean losing their power and privilege. These leaders promise to create communism someday in the far-off future, but they lie, just like all politicians lie. So, as you can see, there are different types of communists, and these different types of communists disagree about how to create communism. But communists agree on the final goal they are working towards. They agree on what communism is: a stateless, classless, moneyless society. Workers are free from command and coercion, and the means of production belong to everyone. This is the true definition of communism. The other definition, which defines communism as dictatorship and a state-run economy, is based on the assumption that if a country is governed by a communist party, then it must have a communist system. But this assumption is false, and communists agree that these countries are not communist and never were. All right, now it's time for Part 2, Defining Socialism. Among people who identify as socialist, there is no agreement on what socialism means, and that's why defining socialism is so damn hard. But hey, let's give this hard thing a try. Some socialists say that socialism is a transitional phase between capitalism and communism. And then another subset of those socialists say that socialism is nothing more than this transitional phase, and that what the economic system is like during that transition is irrelevant to the definition. I'll discuss this view in my next video, but for now, let's focus on defining socialism as an economic system. At the start of this video, I mentioned the 1924 book Dictionary of Socialism, which lists 40 definitions of socialism. Don't worry, I won't bore you with all these definitions. Thankfully, a professor of politics at Staffordshire University named Peter Lamb has already bored himself by going through all 40 definitions of socialism and finding the common features. He's already done the work for us. So thank you, Professor Lamb, for your sacrifice. He's a sacrificial lamb, you might say, if you were desperately reaching for a joke, which I would never do, of course. So, what common features did Professor Lamb discover in these 40 definitions of socialism? Professor Lamb writes,
"That's my old uni? Nice.
First, there were general criticisms about the social effects of the private ownership and control of capital, poverty, low wages, unemployment, economic and social inequality, and a lack of economic security. Second, there was a general view that the solution to these problems lay in some form of collective control. with the degree of control varying among the proponents of socialism over the means of production, distribution, and exchange. Third, there was agreement that the outcomes of this collective control should be a society that provided social equality and justice, economic protection, and a generally more satisfying life for most people. Okay, so these three features can be summarized in one sentence. Socialism seeks to overcome the harmful effects of capitalism by bringing the economy under collective control for the collective good. So there you go. A definition of socialism based on common features found in 40 definitions of socialism. But let's check out a few more definitions, just to be sure. This one comes from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Socialism can be defined as a type of society in which, at minimum, the bulk of the means of production is under social democratic control.
Under the workers.
Just a reminder, the means of production are the factories, natural resources, warehouses, and all the other means that we use to produce and distribute the goods and services that we consume. Next, let's turn to Marxist economist, holy shit, I'm gonna fuck this name up, Wlodzimierz Bruce? Wlodzimierz Bruce, who says,
Bitch, you just completely fucked my name, like 5 times, and don't even buy it dinner? Rude.
Sorry, that's not the quote I was looking for. In the very definition of a socialist economic system, the basic characteristic of such a system is generally reckoned to be the predominance of the
now, where you
social
get
ownership
free oat
of
cakes
the
on
means of
Tuesday.
production.
Nice.
And here's a definition from the academic book Reader's Guide to the Social Sciences. Just as private ownership defines capitalism, social ownership defines socialism. And now a definition from Democratic Socialism, a Global Survey, written by
When the workers own the mean of production.
Donald F. Buskey and published by Prager. No, not that Prager. This Prager, an academic publishing company, perhaps founded by Dennis Prager's non-evil twin. Let's hear the definition. Socialism may be defined as movements for social ownership and control of the economy. It is this idea that is the common element found in the many forms of socialism. So, my dear viewer, we've identified the main feature of socialism. The means of production are socially owned and socially controlled. And there's another feature which appears in definitions of socialism, and that is workers' control of production. We can see this in the definition found in the book Reader's Guide to the Social Sciences. It says, in order to eliminate social hierarchy in the workplace, enterprises are run by those employed, and not by the representatives of private or state capital. The society, i.e. every individual equally, owns capital, and those who work are entitled to manage their own economic affairs. And we find this feature again in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Socialism, unlike capitalism, requires that the bulk of the means of production workers use to yield goods and services be under the effective control of workers themselves, rather than in the hands of the members of a different capitalist class under whose direction they must toil. All right, now we've identified 2 features of socialism. 1, the means of production are socially owned and controlled. 2, workers self-manage production. No capitalist bosses, no state bosses. When you encounter definitions of socialism, feature number 1 is almost always mentioned.
Hello.
Feature number 2 is not.
Yes, I saw. Sorry. Basically, the basics of what socialism and communism is. That's the TLDR.
Comes up pretty often, but in many cases it's forgotten, neglected, left out. Oh, feature number 2. Why are you so relatable? The reason the second feature appears less often is because it's actually an interpretation of the first feature. Since the first feature mentions that the means of production are socially controlled, this raises the question of what this means in practice. One way to interpret this is that the workers control production.
I got you, hold on.
In other words, feature number 1 is interpreted in a way that gives us feature number 2. But as we will soon see, there are other ways that feature number 1 can be interpreted. Part 3. Ambiguity and Different Interpretations. Okay, so we're now equipped with the information we need to come up with a basic, broad definition of socialism. Socialism is a society where the means of production, and the economy in general, are socially owned and socially controlled for the common good of everyone. Alright, sounds great, but there's a problem. How the hell do you interpret this? This uncertainty has led to different interpretations and different definitions of socialism. And oh boy, there are quite a few. Quite a few. So, what is meant by social ownership of the means of production? Some socialists say it means ownership by the state. Other socialists say the means of production should be divided into workers' cooperatives, with each business owned by the people who work there. And some socialists say the means of production should be owned by everyone, with no private ownership and no state ownership. And what is meant by social control of the means of production? Some socialists say this means that workers control production. Other socialists say the state or government controls production. Then there are socialists who say that workers control production, but do so indirectly by democratically electing managers. Some socialists say that both workers and the state should share control of production, and other socialists say both workers and people living in the community should share control of production. And there's another point of disagreement. How much of the means of production must be socially owned in order for a society to qualify as socialist? Some socialists say all of it must be socially owned. Other socialists say that most of it, but not all of it, must be socially owned. And some socialists say that only some of it must be socially owned. Public services, major industries, and utilities, but that's it. The different answers to these questions lead to yet more disagreements. Can socialism be a market economy? Can production be driven by the profit motive? Some socialists say no, absolutely not. That's not socialism, it's capitalism. Other socialists say yes, socialism can and should be a profit-driven market economy. And some socialists say it's okay to have a market and production for profit, but these need to be subordinated to economic planning. And socialists also disagree about class and the state. Will class exploitation continue to exist in socialism? What about the state? Some socialists say no, socialism is both classless and stateless.
But then...
Other socialists say yes, socialism has an exploiting class and the state. And some socialists say that socialism has no exploiting classes, but it does have a state. As you can see, there's a lot of diversity among socialists, resulting in quite a few definitions of socialism. This brings us back to the question of how socialism and communism are similar, and how they're different. Communism is stateless, classless, and moneyless. The means of production belong to everyone, and workers control production. According to some socialists, all these things that are true of communism are also true of socialism. According to other socialists, socialism has some, but not all of these features. And according to other socialists, socialism has none of these features. Amazing.
In other words, because socialists and communists disagree on how to define socialism, they also disagree on what the similarities and differences are between communism and socialism. So the answer to the question of what's the difference between communism and socialism is that there really is no definite answer, because it all depends on how you define socialism. It may interest you to know that Karl Marx didn't make any distinction between socialism and communism. Over the course of his life, he used these two words interchangeably to describe the same thing: a stateless, classless, moneyless society.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, if the Western world, which I don't know what that means, but would all went to socialists or communists, would all laws be changed? Well, no, because as the video explained, sometimes it makes depending on what you're talking about, if you're talking about like a socialistic society where only where the workers own the means of production, yeah, some laws might have to be changed if it's going to be enforced by the state. If there is to be a state, there are going to be some obvious like changes. That's how it's going to happen. Some laws may change about how businesses are owned, and how that affects, who owns businesses at this point. Like if the government decides that, okay, well, from now on, businesses will exist, but now they are just not under the control of private owners, but now they are under a broad control or broad ownership of the workers. Will laws have to be changed? Yeah. Will all laws have to be changed? No.
There are some leftists who say that the difference between socialism and communism is that socialism is a society that is in transition from capitalism to communism. Or, in other words, communism is the goal and socialism is the journey. The first known person to make this differentiation between socialism and communism was a Russian socialist named Vladimir Lenin, the man who became the first head of state of the Soviet Union.
Many people believe
Not
Marx
all
advocates for a
socialists or
little
communists
dictatorship
agree with
when he
Lenin
talks
that
about
socialism
socialism.
should be defined
Right,
in this
but
way.
he doesn't,
And
though.
those who
That's the
do agree-
thing. Like, he doesn't. He actually doesn't even really propose, like, much of a solution as to how to get to the world that he describes as ideal. He doesn't really give us much insight on that. Excellent critiques on capitalism, sure. I mean, yeah, points out the problems with capitalism. He also talks about what his ideal society would be, but not quite as to how that is achieved. I do love how knowledgeable your generation is about this subject. Well, I appreciate that. It basically means that the workers own all the power. Yeah, the workers own the means of production. But we don't really get, like, too much of a how.
Are usually people whose political views are highly influenced
I mean,
by
he
Lenin.
talks, yeah, sure, the Paris Commune, I guess he posits that as a, guide or as a example, I guess.
And this brings us to a related point.
Each definition of socialism is aligned with a different socialist political philosophy. For example, orthodox Marxist-Leninists say that a socialist economy is planned by the state. But market socialists, as you can tell by the name, say that socialism should be a market economy, while libertarian socialists say no to both. Libertarian socialists say that socialism should not be controlled by the state or by markets. Then there are libertarian market socialists, who are a subtype of libertarian socialists and also a subtype of market socialists. But while most libertarian socialists are opposed to the market, libertarian market socialists are pro-market. And while most market socialists think the state should exist and play some role in the economy, libertarian market socialists are anti-state. Oof, I'm fucking dizzy just saying all that shit. And then there are other types of socialists that I haven't even mentioned. So yeah, it gets a bit complicated. I'd like to dive into this complicated mess and go over each major definition of socialism so that we can have a clear understanding of what each one means. But I also don't want to make this video too long. So if you want to dive into this complicated mess with me, you'll have to join me next time in the next video, which will come out next week. In the meantime, I have another video you might like about how both a socialist system and a communist system could work in practice. In systems like these, how can we make sure that the work that needs doing gets done? How can we avoid overconsumption? How can goods be produced and distributed?
The councils then, yeah, but wouldn't that also, wouldn't the problem be, I don't know if he wrote it specifically about this, but wouldn't the problem then be, if he advocates for a classless society, wouldn't that by definition start creating a different class? Different classes? The Russian word for council? No.
With no market, no central planning, no state planning, and even no money. I discuss all of this and more in my video
Soviet. Oh, huh. The Soviet Union. Gotcha. Huh.
Post-Capitalism, a detailed look at how it could work, which you can watch by finding the link down below in the video description. And now, I have an announcement.
Hi, I'm Lucky Black Cat. You may remember me from such films as Conquest of Head and Friends of Gerudy are Friends of Your Booty. Since 2019, I've been making YouTube videos and never asked for a single gosh darn penny. But now, I finally started a Patreon! Are you tired of not knowing what to do with your money? Setting it on fire or giving it to a financial dominatrix doesn't satisfy you like it once did? Well, have I got news for you. Patreon!
That's funny. I believe Marx's vision is very different to Lenin and his democratic centralism, but it's not. This makes no sense. You can't have a centralized structure and call it democratic.
Now you can give your money to a mentally unstable communist with delusions of grandeur. Every dollar goes towards fermenting global revolution. Patreon!
True.
Do you know?
Alright, cool. A national government is centralized. Yep. A national government, by definition, is centralized. And also, by definition, not democratic. Or not as democratic as it could be. Not bad for a small tuber. No, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Maybe one day I'll be as good. I'll be as capable as some of these folks. Then it's like, hey, how can we apply Marxist here? Well, yeah, kind of. Some twisted version of it, or perhaps a version that he thought would work. But I will admit my Cuban mother would not enjoy the communist debate, being anti-Castro and pro-Che. But like, okay. You got this. We believe. Thank you. I appreciate it. Patreon. True. I mean, it's just very simple. Like, I don't really particularly delve into a lot of just like only ideological prescriptions. It's more like, well, we have to play with the hands we're dealt. We have to play with the hand that we're dealt with. And it constitutes making choices. And all of that should be in the service, or all of that should be at the end, to create a more democratic system that does not involve this ever accumulating and centralization of wealth and power, and one where workers should be able to reap the fruits of their labor. It's that simple. If you are a worker, you should be entitled to the fruits of your labor. After all, you are the one that is producing. Is that not true? Speaking of social media, will Patreon take over Twitch and or YouTube? No way. No. They're not a streaming service. They have nothing to do with Twitch or YouTube at all. They're not a streaming service. They have nothing to do with each other. All right. We've got some headlines. I think we should probably start with this over here. This is kind of not breaking, but it's recent. It happened today. Another vid? Well, I don't think I have time to complete it. Because I gotta run through these headlines. The biggest problem with implementing a communist or socialist system in the management of human greed and violence is a means of resolving dispute. With implementing a communist or socialist system in the management of human greed and violence as a means to resolving dispute. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. If you want to send it to me in DMs. Patreon seems more open-minded and more profit than the other two. I mean, yeah, but I don't know if it's I'm not sure that Patreon would try to, you know, take over Twitch or YouTube. First of all, YouTube is backed, it's Google. So there's nothing taking that giant. Patreon is in no position to even begin to think that way. And yeah, I just don't think that they're like a streaming service, really. That's not really their business model. It's all good. Just send it to me via Whispers or via DMs, whatever you want to call it. Anti-Semitic flyers left in driveways of some Atlanta suburbs. Yep. Remember we covered some of these that have been going around the country. Yep. Police in 2 Atlanta suburbs are on the hunt for a suspect or suspects that left anti-Semitic flyers on some residents' driveway on Sunday. Both Dunwoody and Sandy Springs Police Departments said they're investigating the incidents. The Dunwoody Police Department is aware that a number of residents of all faiths received anti-Semitic flyers in their driveway overnight. We're actively investigating this incident, working closely with Sandy Springs Police Department as their community was victimized as well. Georgia State Representative Esther Panich tweeted that she received the flyer in her driveway, which is linked here. Let's take a look. These look very similar to the type of flyers that have been floating around in different states of the country. So to say, like, this kind of shit doesn't exist, or this kind of shit is, it's not that common. I mean, have you even met a racist? Bro, really? It's 2023, and this isn't even the first time this has happened in this country. Last year, there was a numerous amounts of incidents in different states of flyers just like this. Quote, "Welcome to being a Jew in Georgia. My driveway this morning. Sandy Springs PD came and took for testing. Govern yourselves accordingly. GDL and anti-Semites who seek to harm and intimidate Jews in Georgia." Panich tweet said, "I'm coming for you with the weight of the state behind me." The flyers were left in plastic bags in the driveway of many Jewish families in the Fulton and DeKalb counties. Dunwoody Mayor Lynn Douch said that the purpose of the flyers was to cause fear and division. I mean, yeah, it's Nazi shit. Yeah, it's Nazi shit. Oh, yeah. I've seen this video. We watched it with the Beckosphere. Hold on, I'll play it towards the end. It's a good meme. All right, it's a good meme. Here, I'll cue it up. It's a good meme. All right. Well, I'm a moderator there, so it's a little, it's a little different. But maybe some folks haven't seen it here, so I'll play it. Don't let me forget. I want to assure that to everyone that hateful, divisive, and anti-Semitic rhetoric has no place here. Dunwoody is a community that values our diversity and is home to people of all faiths, race, and ethnicities and more. Said Deutsch in a statement, I stand with our Jewish communities and all who face intolerance. I believe that love always conquers hate, and please be good to each other. Yeah, probably. I don't know. It depends on what the context is, but yeah, probably. Since I'm not the only mod, but I'm mostly the one there. Sandy Springs is aware that a number of residents received disturbing anti-Semitic flyers earlier this morning. The police department said the Sandy Springs Police Department is actively investigating and encouraging any citizens receiving such a message or who has any additional information to contact 911. Brian Kemp, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp denounced the anti-Semitic flyers. This kind of hate has no place in our state, and the individuals responsible do not share Georgia's values. I mean, well, yeah, if you've seen some of the events that happen in recent history, I don't know about that, but sure. If needed, state law enforcement stands ready to assist the Sandy Springs Police and Dunwoody Police in their investigation. We will always condemn acts of anti-Semitism. Yeah. Okay. Now that we have that kind of context and that kind of idea in our heads, two neo-Nazis, one of them being a neo-Nazi leader of the Atomwaffen. For those of you that don't know, the Atomwaffen is a notorious, essentially Nazi kind of skinhead domestic terrorists. That's what they are. The FBI captured two people, one a nationally known neo-Nazi leader, before they could launch an attack on Baltimore's power grid. Hey, remember the stories that we kept hearing not too distant time about power grids being attacked with gunfire? That's very interesting. The FBI caught these two clowns, Nazis, before they could launch an attack on Baltimore's power grid and had the potential to completely destroy this whole city. The suspects, and by that they mean attempt to coordinate an attack to basically put the whole city out of electricity. Essentially, that was the goal. The suspects, Brandon Russell and Sarah Clandon, were taken into custody last week in Florida and Maryland, respectively. Federal authorities described the alleged plot as racially or ethnically motivated. More than 61% of Baltimore residents are black. Russell, 27, is a founder. 27 years old. Oh, hey, cool. More good news, folks. I just saw this pop up in the Discord. Thank you, Heat. I guess we'll end on this one. Russell, 27, is the founder of the Atomwaffen Division, a neo-Nazi group bent on ushering the collapse of civilization. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the group admires Charles Manson and supports the, quote, idea of lone wolf violence, according to the ADL. The reason why they support that is because it's easier to say that it's just, lone wolves. Don't pay attention to us. It's just random acts of violence when it's really not. When I gifted a sub and all of them when I went to trolls. Man, it happens. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, if it makes you feel better, it doesn't matter because, you're still supporting the creator. So in the unfortunate event that the clowns in chat, the actual clowns in chat, manage to somehow get a gifted sub, at least it doesn't, at the end of the day, you're still supporting the creator. So at least you kind of get that. The alleged plot was first flagged in June of last year after an FBI informant claimed to have been contacted by Russell, who wanted to, quote, attack electrical substations and provided guidance on how to cause maximum damage. Russell then connected the informant with Clandaniel, a Maryland resident, to hash out plans for an attack on stations in and around Baltimore. The pair and informant worked with urgency as Clandaniel said that she was terminally ill with a kidney ailment and was unlikely to live for more than a few months. Clandaniel had 5 stations. Had 5 stations in her crosshairs. Officials said in Northville, Reisterstown, Perry Hall, Maryland, and 2 more in the vicinity of Baltimore. Attacks on all 5 would be a ring around Baltimore, and if they hit a number of them all in the same day, they would completely destroy the whole city. Clandale allegedly said in a recorded conversation. Thomas Sobocinski, a special agent in charge of the FBI Baltimore office, said the suspects were serious in their efforts aimed at paralyzing the city of 580,000. The accused were not just talking, but taking steps to fulfill these threats and further their extremist goals. Russell provided, once again, I would like to point out that this is in 2023. Literal fucking neo-Nazis, well, they're whatever. They're Nazis, literal fucking Nazis, planning domestic terrorist actions. For the sake of their ideology. Russell provided instructions and location information. He described attacking the power transformers as the greatest thing somebody can do. Sobocinski told reporters in Baltimore their actions threatened the electricity and heat of our homes, hospitals, and businesses. Russell came onto the FBI's radar in 2018 when his Muslim roommate killed 2 other roommates who taunted him about his faith. The murder probe in Tampa, Florida, uncovered Russell's connection to the Atomwaffen. Federal authorities said the suspect allegedly told investigators that Russell had been hatching plans to attack Florida power stations, which, by the way, also we made a mention of that as well. Not just in that North Carolina incident, there was several states last year, and towards the end, I think, of 2021, I think there was several incidents of these. I think more so in 2022. One of them was supposedly in Florida. The famous one was in North Carolina, which they still haven't caught the person or persons. There was apparently a plan in Washington. And I think there was another incident that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Russell was arrested and ultimately convicted of a possession of an unregistered destructive device. A handcuffed Clandaniel appeared on Monday afternoon before U.S. Magistrate Judge Richard Collins in Baltimore. Clandaniel, who has a shoulder-length red hair, wore a gray jacket with a fuzzy collar. She did not appear to be wearing any shoes, only winter socks. Collins told Clandaniel that she could face up to 20 years if she's convicted of conspiring to destroy an energy facility. The government should asked for the suspects to be held without bail, and the defense did not oppose that request. A federal public defender was assigned to represent Clandaniel, but the defense attorney left court without making any comment. It wasn't immediately clear Monday afternoon if Russell had hired or been assigned criminal defense attorneys who could speak on his behalf. Russell was set to make his initial appearance before a federal magistrate in Orlando later Monday afternoon. Attacks on the nation's... this is just law enforcement, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Attacks on the nation's power grid come into focus in December following 2 high-profile incidents. There were shootings at 2 electrical substations in central North Carolina. That's the one that we were talking about. In early December, at the peak of Duke Energy outages, more than 45,000 homes and businesses were left in the dark. That incident was followed by attacks at 4 electricity substations on Christmas near Tacoma, Washington, as about 14,000 homes and businesses were forced to do without power. Yeah. But please tell me about how the left and the right are the same. This is what kind of angers me about like clowns who try to make this false equivalency. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Biden 2024, most Dems say no thank you. A majority of Democrats now think one term is plenty for President Biden, despite his insistence that he plans to seek re-election in 2024, despite also saying that he would be a one-term president. But okay. That's according to a new poll from the Associated Press. NORC Center for Public Affairs showed just 37% of Democrats say that they want him to seek a second term, down from 52% in the weeks before last year's midterms. While Biden has trumpeted his legislative victories and ability to govern, the poll suggests relatively few U.S. adults give him high marks on either. Follow-up interviews with poll respondents suggest that many believe the 80-year-old's age is a liability, with people focused on his coughing, gait, and gaffes and possibility that the world's most stressful job would be better suited for somebody younger. I honestly think that he would be too old, said Sarah Overman, 37, a Dem who works in education in Raleigh, North Carolina. We could use someone younger in office. As president gives his State of the Union address on Tuesday, he had a chance to confront fundamental doubts about his competence to govern. Biden had previously leaned heavily on his track record to say he's more than up to the task. When asked if he can handle the office's responsibilities at this age, the president has often responded as if he's accepting a dare. Quote, watch me. Well, I mean, the question is, can you handle it? So yes or no? Whatever. Democratic candidates performed better than expected in the 2022 midterms, a testament to Biden's message that he's defending democracy and elevating the middle class. Democrats expanded their control of the Senate by 1 seat and narrowly lost their House majority, even though history indicated there would be a Republican wave, i.e. the red wave that never materialized. When asked about the survey's findings in Monday's news briefing, the White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre indicated that the result in last year's election mattered more than polling numbers. I mean, the result of last year's election mattered more than poll numbers, meaning that, yeah, Dems outperformed the expectations, and that's a fair point, but it isn't the midterm. It isn't the midterm. It's a general election for president. The way we should look at this is what we saw from the midterms, said Jean-Pierre, noting that relative Democratic success were because the president went out there and spoke directly to the American people. MTG does want to impeach President Biden. Consider the source. I mean, the source is Associated Press. This is neutral as it gets, more or less. I mean, we could see who wrote it. Oh, here. Yeah, MTG didn't write this. I don't know what MTG has... Marjorie Taylor Greene has to do with this. Anyways. Overall, 41% of the approve of how Biden is handling this job as president. The polls show similar ratings to the end of last year. A majority of Democrats still approve of the job Biden is doing as president, yet their appetite for a re-election campaign has slipped despite his electoral track record. Only 22% of the U.S. adults overall say he should run again, down from 29% who said so before last year's midterm. So even Democrats outperforming expectations wasn't a factor here. The decline among Democrats saying Biden should run again appears to be concentrated among younger people, of course. Among Democrats young ages of 45 and over, 49% said Biden should run for re-election, and nearly as many as 58% who said that in October. But among those, hey Jared Cardenas, how's it going? But among those under age 45, Cardenas, 23% now say he should run for re-election after 45% said before the midterm. Linda Lockwood, a Dem and retiree from Kansas City, said that she's not worried about Biden's age. He seems to be in pretty good condition, in my opinion. He's coming from a 76-year-old woman. You might be a little more careful going down the steps as you get older, but if your brain is still working, that's the important part. Already the oldest president in U.S. history, Biden has been dogged by questions about his age, as he would be 86 if he serves a full 8 years as president. He often works long days, standing for hours, remembering the names of strangers he meets while traveling who want to share a story about their lives with him. Yet he's been a national political figure for half a century, having first been elected to Senate from Delaware in 1972, and the moments when he appeared lost on stage and stumbles through his speeches can garner more attention than his policies. Yeah. Biden has been repeatedly emphasized in his speeches that it's essential for the public to know the totality of what his administration is doing. It's notched 4 big legislative victories with coronavirus relief, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and tax and spending measures that have helped to address climate change and improve the IRS's ability to enforce the tax code and help taxpayers. Yet, 13% have a lot of confidence in Biden's ability to accomplish major policy goals, a possible reflection of the fact that he must now work with a Republican majority in the House that want to cut spending in return for lifting the government's legal borrowing authority, i.e. the debt ceiling. As we scroll through this, because it's pretty much like a theme of people expected more. But unless Harris is disqualified, would be next in line if Biden was 25th Amendment or impeached. Again, GOP is warped. Yeah, but this has nothing to do with the GOP. This is a poll on how the Dems feel. This has nothing to do with the GOP. This is how the Democrats feel themselves, or at least people who are registered Dems who took this poll. This has nothing to do with the GOP. Absolutely independent and Democrats expected more. Right. Basically, this is like the general theme that we continue to read. Essentially. The point is, if people continue to feel this way, right now, as it stands, it's already very close between a Trump and Biden matchup. It's already uncomfortably close between a Trump and Biden matchup. Yeah, I don't have time for this one. That's already too close for comfort. Polls are getting less scientific and more absurd. Hey, Bob Dragon, how's it going? I hope you're well. Same, I hope you're doing all right. But if the trend continues, right now, as it stands, it's a coin flip. And, yeah. Hoo boy. I cannot begin to express the anxiety a close election in 2024 is going to be. When you have Donald Trump retweeting people calling for arming up, and if Trump loses in 2024, presumably if he's the nominee, right, on the presumption that he's the nominee, this goes into the general election between Trump and Biden. It's going to be close. Trump loses by a small margin, let's say, as an example of a potential outcome. I cannot begin to tell you how much anxiety that already is at the thought, especially, like I said, when you have the former president retweeting to a lot of people that there's 80 million or whatever, 80 million people that are willing to arm up and fight for Trump. Yeah, whew. That's not exactly a good spot to be. Oh shoot, it's the Morton gifting a tier 1 sub to Buff Dragon. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Gifting subs is nice. Thank you. Merrick Garland is the villain here. Yeah, for not being for not doing his job. Yeah, I understand. I'm really not looking forward to the whole pageantry that's going to take place. I'm not looking forward to that, especially like if we saw the response to Trump losing on January 6th, and now this is early 2023. We're seeing potential calls for violence, and not just like, oh, we're gonna show up at the Capitol. It's arm up. Here, I mean, I think I even didn't. I could have sworn I even retweeted it. Or no, I think Alio sent me something. Hold on. Pretty sure it's somewhere around here. Maybe a normal person doesn't want to win against Trump. Yeah, who knows? Quote, this is the truth that he retruthed? I don't know. I'm just gonna call them Twitter. All right, they're just tweets. All right, it's a impersonation of Twitter. It's an impersonation on Twitter, but whatever. This is what he retruthed. They will have to figure out how to fight 80 million. Plus, it's not gonna happen again. In other words, January 6th. Nah, we're gonna skip that part. People my age and old will physically fight for him this time. What do we have to lose? I'll donate the rest of my time here on this planet to do it, and I know many others who feel the same. They got my 6, and we are locked and loaded. Yeah. And this sentiment isn't like just this one unhinged person. This sentiment isn't just this one unhinged person. This is being approved. The message and the idea is being approved by the ex-president of the United States, who has a lot of followers, who has a lot of reach. And this is the idea. The gasoline continues to get poured. It's not going to be like January 6th. Can the GOP House do anything to make the military more fascistic? I mean, they could try to like make it more centralized so that they control it. I don't know. Maybe give more powers. Maybe in a shocking turn of events. Maybe who knows? Centralize the ability of the president to respond. I don't know. Should we find ourselves in a scenario where Trump wins? Maybe. I don't know. It doesn't need to be any more fascistic, true. Any more fascist, true. Trump probably has long COVID. Doesn't make them less dangerous. Because the GOP House, yeah. Trump's features are getting worse and mistakes are fumbling in the windmills again. I mean, it doesn't make him less dangerous. Like him or not, Trump is one of the best presidents of the US. No, he's not. Actually, he's pretty despicable and disgusting. Yes, I'm aware that we've had 46 presidents. He's 45th. Or am I missing something? Did something go over my head? It's quite possible. I'm gonna chalk that off as something going over my head. Anywho. Yeah, that's my point is that the fact that the Biden administration has been lackluster, to say the least, plus the fact that in a matchup between Trump and Biden, it's already pretty darn close. It's scary. It's scary to imagine a very, very close election in which Trump loses. Again, based on the context that this is the kind of stuff he's retweeting out to a lot of people, is to, you know, be locked and loaded, you know, to be locked and loaded and be willing to physically fight. Not just like, again, this is not like a January 6th thing where you march for Trump and then you end up doing an insurrection. This is more like, just go straight to it. I think you mean worse. Yeah, no, it's a joke that went right over my head. So that's an L on me, Heat. How's it going? Stop giving him attention. What? The candidate who's potentially running for president? Stop focusing on a candidate who's running for office, who announced his candidacy, what, maybe a month or so ago? Yeah, dude, let's just ignore the former president who essentially incited an insurrection and who's currently a candidate for president. Yeah, dude. Biden put Garland in there to not do anything to Trump because Biden's highest value is status, and it would be tarnished the, quote, office of the president. Yeah, that's some bullshit logic, SV Harkin. That's not, that's some BS logic. I mean, you know, it is what it is. When did he announce his candidacy first? The first election? Do you remember? You mean in 2015? Whatever? Doesn't matter. I'm talking about the upcoming election in 2024. What are you on about? You okay? I'm talking about his candidacy now. Alright. Meme time.
Dr. Peterson, I made it despite your directions or whatever.
Ah, Dr. Zizek, welcome. I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable debate.
Yes, whatever.
Oh, ye gods! Debate college students! But what if I were to quote from the Communist Manifesto and use it to boost my own argument?
Wait, so his declaration of candidacy is a psyop by the media, but he decided to do it, but also fake news? Sure, dude. You make a lot of sense. A lot of sense being made here. Damn. You guys are a little late. You know, I start at 5 p.m. For the fucking clowns in chat, I start at 5 p.m. Come on. Get your ish together. 5 p.m. I hope you've been well, my friend. I miss you and the rest of the community. Hey, Doc Midnight, how's it going? Holy yikes. Jeez, I haven't seen you in a minute. Wow. Well, I hope you're doing all right. Anyways, folks, it starts, for the clowns in chat, it starts at 5 p.m., okay? You coming in here at 7 o'clock. Good man, doing well, just been super busy. Nice, I'm glad that you're doing all right. Cool, awesome. Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Delightfully devilish, Jordan. Jordan with his crazy explanations. Slavoj Žižek's gonna need his medication. When he hears Jordan's lame equivocations, he'll be trouble in town tonight.
Jordan!
Dr. Zizek, I was just rehearsing my rebuttals to your possible intros. You know, discourse exercise. Care to join me?
Why is there bullshit leaking out of your argument, Jordan?
No, that isn't bullshit. It's nuance, you know.
I think he needs to work on his Kermit the Frog voice just a little bit.
For the debate we're having on finding happiness in the modern world. Dr. Zizek, I've read the Communist Manifesto.
I thought we were discussing finding happiness.
Yes, I read the 25-page pamphlet, the Communist Manifesto. I am now an expert on communism.
Oh no, I said postmodernism. That's what I call Marxism.
You think postmodernists are Marxists?
Yes, they're taking over the campuses.
Where are the Marxists?
Social sciences department?
I see. Well, I have debated many politically correct college campus liberals and so on, but they are by no means Marxists or whatever.
Oh, not college liberals, it's Jonathan Haidt.
I see.
No, yeah, this is 100% how this happened. Really? I think it needs a little more Kermit.
These arguments are quite similar to the ones perpetually debunked during every debate on Marxism.
Oh no, patented Peterson arguments. Old family recipe.
So you claim postmodernism is rebranded Marxism?
Yes.
So you claim this despite the fact that Marxism is a materialist philosophy which postmodernism rejects?
You know, the lobster, the 12 rules for life. Excuse me for 1 second.
Of course.
Oh, well, that was wonderful. Good time was had by all. I'm pooped.
Yes, that should be good lord. What is happening in there?
Leftists taking over America?
Leftists taking over America. In this day and age, in this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within the University of Toronto.
Yes.
May I see it?
No. Peterson, the subreddit is on fire! No, mother, it's just Western values.
Well, Peterson, you eat from the trash can of ideology, but I must say, whatever.
Help! Help!
This is literally how it happened. 100% how this went down. I mean, if you guys want to actually check out the debate, you should. It's a good meme. But yeah, if you want the cliff notes, just watch this 3-minute meme. Same thing. Here, I'll repost it in chat since it's Immortan decided to bless us with this meme. If you guys don't want to watch like the entirety of that debate, just this 3 minutes basically is exactly what happened. All right. So, yeah, not to, you know, be a doomer or whatnot, but hey, Grim Report warns that 40% of U.S. animals at the risk of extinction were currently experiencing and causing the sixth extinction to mass extinction species across the planet. Cool, nice, awesome, good stuff. Underscoring the need for humanity to overhaul its relationship with nature, 34% of plants, species and 40% of animal species across the U.S. are at risk of extinction, while 41% of ecosystems, U.S. ecosystems, would collapse. Cool. You know, the things that we depend on to live. Go on Cathmate's stream. See ya in a bit. Good chatting. Thank you. I appreciate it. I felt appropriate on a Monday. True. You know, this is where this is fine meme would go into play. According to an analysis published on Monday by the nonprofit NatureServe, for 50 years, the NatureServe network has been collecting the information necessary to understand biodiversity impairment in the U.S. This new analysis of data, a first in 20 years, makes crystal clear the urgency of that work. So the group's vice president of data methods, Reagan Smith. Plus, bacteria from the human's gut have are going extinct. That's not good. That's actually really bad. That's not good at all. It turns out, and this is true, we need that, you know, to live a healthy life anyways. Two-fifths of our ecosystems are in trouble. Freshwater invertebrates and many pollinators and foundation of a healthy and functional planet are in precipitous decline. Understanding and addressing these risks are critical if we're to forestall devastating consequences for the biodiversity that humanity needs to survive. Again, you know, just the small things in life, you know, like water and food and how we make resources. That and the Atlantic currents are my worst days. Sheesh. Noting that roughly a third of plants are endangered, the report Biodiversity in Focus, United States edition, explains that this is an alarming general finding, but certain taxa face even greater threats. For example, 48% of cactus species are at risk of extinction, while around 200 tree species, about 20%, are at risk of extinction. One of the hundreds of grass species that form our nation's Great Prairies and marshes are about 19% of risk of vanishing forever. Preventing plant extinction is essential to maintaining ecosystem function and service that wildlife and people rely upon. Yeah, cool, you know. Oh, it's such a beautiful bird. Yep, half of cactus species. As for animals, the analysis says that as a group, species associated with freshwater, including amphibians, snails, mussels, crayfish, and many aquatic insects, have the highest percentage of at-risk species, highlighting the importance of conservation strategies to protect freshwater ecosystems. Among pollinators, bees are particularly threatened, with 37% of assessed species at risk. The report continues, the conservation needs of these and other invertebrate species are often overlooked, yet many invertebrates are integral to maintaining the ecological function of freshwater and terrestrial ecosystems. Once again, the small things in life, you know, like the things that pollinate our food, the things that not just pollinate our food, but pollinate important native species that then provide ecosystem stability. I mean, you know, it's not just honeybees. Ecosystems across the country face potential range-wide collapse due to extensive threats such as land cover conversion. Tropical ecosystems in the U.S. are all under substantial risk, but account for relatively small proportions in numbers and area. Temperate grassland, boreal grasslands, and shrubland stand out among the highly threatened ecosystems that extend over vast areas of the country, with 51% of the 78 grassland types known to be at risk of range-wide collapse. Cool. Temperate forests, boreal forests, and woodlands have also experienced multiple pressures, leading to an at-risk status for 40% of the 107 types of native U.S. forests. Cool. Nature, Sir President CEO Sean O'Brien stressed that we're currently experiencing and causing the sixth extinction, the mass extinction of species across the planet. Nice job, humans. Nature serves data highlights where the threats are right here at home. The plants, animals, and ecosystems found in our state, tribal, and federal lands are key components of our cultural and natural heritage. We should be proud of the biodiversity in our backyard and should prioritize protecting what is here now. The report is just the latest to emphasize the growing threat to various species. Others include the International Union for Conservation of Nature, Red List of Threatened Species, updated in December during a summit in Montreal that ultimately produced what many experts and advocates agree is a weak global framework to protect biodiversity. The IUCN update revealed a perfect storm of unsustainable human activity decimating marine life around the globe. I blame externalities from neoliberal capitalism. Well, holy shit. Finally. Something that makes sense. Yes, sure. it can be said that a negative externality flowing from capitalism, neoliberal or otherwise, it's just really capitalism. It doesn't really matter. It's capitalism. Yes, one of the problems here that we have to come to face is the negative externalities of capitalism, or of the for-profit system that have encouraged and, in fact, rewarded this behavior of destroying the planet for what? Money? Yeah, sure. I think I can be sympathetic that that is a factor that we are going to have to come to terms with. Yes. A perfect storm of unsustainable human activities decimating marine life around the globe. Bruno Oberle, the group's director general, said that at the time he warned that we urgently need to address the linked climate and biodiversity crisis with profound changes to our economic systems, or we risk losing the crucial benefits the oceans provide us with. You know, like food. The Nature Serve analysis provoked similar demands for action. As Reuters reported, Vivian Negron Ortiz, the president of the Botanical Society of America and a botanist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who is not involved in the Nature Serve report, said there's still a lot of scientists who do not. Scientists do not know and have not yet discovered about biodiversity in the U.S., and that Nature Serve data will help illuminate that darkness. More than anything, she sees new data as a call to action. This report shows the need for the public to help prevent the disappearance of many of our plant species. The public can help by finding and engaging with local organizations that are actively working to protect wild places and conserve rare species. What I find odd is, despite the forewarnings, it's still business as usual these days, even harder in some areas. I mean, yeah, well, it's capitalism, at least in part, because, well, line go up is the only acceptable answer, and if it means just continued destruction of the planet, it doesn't really take into consideration anything else. It's all about the short-term gain. I'm going to make my money, and I'm going to run off and make like a bandit with a stack of cash. And of course, I'm hyperbolizing, but the idea is that these corporations who are destroying the planet for profit essentially have no sense of responsibility about this, because they aren't there to care about what they do to the planet. They're there to produce profit. That's it. And if Q2 looks good, fuck it. Doesn't matter. Yes, it's a death cult. Tierra Carrillo, senior scientist at the Center of Biological Diversity, said in a statement Monday that this grim assessment adds to the mountain of science showing that we're creating an extinction crisis. And an existential one. But yeah, it's suicidal of us to pretend that business as usual is more important than safeguarding the natural world we depend on. Yeah, again, there is no scenario here where we don't have to take incredible action. At this point, there's somebody on Twitter that pointed this out, that at this point, capitalism and lack of government doing its job, when it could have started this process decades and decades ago, have now made it so that the only options that we're being limited to is radical change. It's got to happen. Failure to do so is, I think their words were, a radical change. Failure to have radical change at this point will just become radical failure. Is what they said, and it's true. Heat with a tier 1 sub and you've been subbed for 21 months. Look at that. Holy yikes. We're almost at 2 years. Elon Musk and Planet B reviving the space programs, all delusions. Yeah, I mean, Rich, you can't expect somebody to, like Elon Musk, to provide us the answers here. No way. They are the problem, not the solution. Spotlighting some potential solutions, including the Extinction Prevention Act and Recovering America's Wildlife Act. Grassland loss is the biggest U.S. environmental disaster that gets the least attention. Conversions of grassland to suburban sprawl and pesticide-intensive agriculture is a primary reason we've lost 3 billion birds and why we could lose monarch butterflies and vital pollinators. By taking nature for granted, we've pushed natural systems to the brink of collapse. We've been so neglectful for so long, but we can create a different world that doesn't exploit nature and vulnerable human communities for never-ending sprawl and consumption. True! I had to take a little break, but yay, thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you for bringing this article here. By taking nature for granted, yes, we've pushed systems to brink of collapse, all for the sake of, well, line must go up, and yeah, that's basically it. It is undeniable that an aspect of solving climate change, or at least seriously talking about the climate crisis, is going to involve coming to terms with capitalism. It's not far-fetched to say that maybe we've reached the limits. Alright, folks. I do have to get going, get some food. Folks, before I go, if you enjoyed the content and you want to continue to support this channel, in other ways, in other ways, you can hit the follow button on your way out. And if you guys can, holy yikes, Holy City coming in hot with a tier 1 sub towards the end there. Thank you so much. Jesus, you guys have been going buck wild today with all the biddies. 3 tier 1 subs. Jesus. Sheesh. Thank you guys. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I appreciate it. Please make sure you hit the follow button. And if you can, as 215 of you have already done, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit the big red subscribe button, spread the word far and wide. We are here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Heat with another 100 biddies. Jesus, you guys are just on fire. You guys are sending me off on some good vibes today. Thank you. I appreciate it. Scodio, thank you so much. I like that little edit. I like the edit. That's pretty cool. Jeez, you guys are on fire today. Sheesh. The support has been unreal. Wow. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. You guys are what makes this channel go. It's because of you guys we're able to produce this content. Thank you. A hype train? What? Towards the end of the stream? I know, believe. Alio with the 9 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Whew. You guys have been incredibly generous. Hey, Arberlin, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. I appreciate it. I'd chip in, but I just bought a new phone and I can't pay for another 5. Oh, don't worry about it, Jostein. No. That's not. No, you're good. You're good. 3 minutes left to hype train. Yeah, there you go. No, it's all good, folks. I appreciate the support. You guys are what keeps this channel going. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you. The support has been unreal. But that being said, yeah, I do have to get some dinner. I am hungry. Looks like we dropped some frames there, but that's okay. I am hungry, and I am getting ready to go eat. Thank you. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So bring a friend. Thank you. Follow, subscribe, like, do the thing. Scodio, thank you so much for the 50 biddies. Oh my goodness. Sheesh. We're about like a second away from starting a hype train towards the end of the stream. I don't believe it. You guys just keep on going. You guys just keep going. That's wild. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Today has been back to back. Look at that. One minute and 30 seconds. Oh, man. All right. Your soup or whatever can wait. True. That is true. We do have a way of reheating the food, okay? You're right. You're right. Listen. We'll do something if a hype train starts, we'll do something, all right? How about that? I'll figure something out if a hype train starts. I'm running the clock out? True. Oh, a hype train has just started with Doc Midnight subscribing at the midnight hour. Huh? Midnight hour? Yeah? 2 seconds to midnight and 2 minutes to midnight? No? Alright. Alright, since the hype train has started, thanks to the Doc, I will, bring a cat. How about that? I'll bring a cat. Okay? For the duration of the hype train, I will bring one of the cats in. Alright? Give me a second. I don't know. It's like the first thing that comes to my head, so that's what I'm gonna do. Maybe put some janky music and some funny music. Because we usually do like the Alex Jones greatest hits. But I will bring the cat and then we'll do the Alex Jones bits. All right, hold on. Support small streamers. True. And support Bakita the cat. There you go, Scodio. You're really bringing up the cat emote game. Someone else posted Holy City. Winston and Vaquita look very similar, just like kind of inverted. All right, let's do this one.
The paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry.
This is probably my favorite one.
I've had enough of these people.
Level 2, Heat with another tier 1 sub, gifting to Michael Hassler. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin. And
Here.
they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy, weird, sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy, weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number 1 is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and
Massive dumps,
Hillary
true.
both smell like sulfur.
Oh, the music is great.
Vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed.
True, this is the proper emote, the simulacra. $27 is Alex Jones emote, is the way.
We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
That's the best part of that video. Honestly, that's the best part of the video. I'm not gonna lie. All right. Oh no, we've got more. We've got more.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Oh, I hate when it gets ended before that. No, that's the best part. That really encompasses the point.
Real slow for you. Gay frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frogs. Gay friggin' frogs. Quack, 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 frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs?
That's a callback to Jurassic Park.
I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Place point.
This one's a good one. All right, we've got one more, I think. I think there's like one more that's honestly one of my favorite like meme songs from Alex Jones. The folk song is my favorite, but this one and the Eat Your Leftist Ass is also great. Yeah, there's one shoot, I'm gonna play one more because like you guys have been so incredibly generous today. It's unreal. Let me see if I could find it. Yes, okay. Here we are.
You're going to live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT.
Is that the origin of the tanky? Yeah, true. Nah, this is just a meme. This is a meme video. They're all like memes of things that Alex Jones has said.
They believe they're communicating with entities they call them clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, True Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it.
The Christian that produces Endless Center AI-generated Seinfeld parody show has been banned.
Is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT.
Speaking of that,
Stalin
folks,
took
bro.
the DMT. Mao took the DMT. True Frequency Radio took the DMT. I shouldn't even get into it.
Hilarious. All right, folks. Your generosity has been wild. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate all the support. You guys have been unreal today. Thank you. You guys are what makes this channel grow, as I was saying. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Hang tight, folks, as we get ready to go. Let's see here. As we get ready to go, $27. Look at that. Speaking of, we'll just go to $27. As we get ready to go to $27, let's just hang tight. Thank you guys so much. One more. One more goodbye from the cat. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One more goodbye from the kitty cat. As she's like, I am unamused. While I purr loudly. While I purr up a storm. I need to figure out a way to like how to put a microphone so you guys can hear her purrs. But she is purring up a storm. Alright, go on, be free. No? You're just gonna stay on my lap? Alright. That's fine. Alright, folks. I have got to run. Thank you guys so much for the support. It really does help us out. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love y'all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Yeah, get like a little tiny mic so we can hear her purrs, or some kind of sensitive mic. I need to figure that out. Maybe one day. All right, hang tight, folks. Hang tight, hang tight. Thank you, Michael Hassler. Thank you, Heat. Thank you to all folks who have supported the channel. Thank you so much for all the subs, the biddies, and whatnot. Don't worry, Alio. I will play the ukulele tomorrow. I appreciate it. Hang tight, folks. We are unable to raid $27. All right, fine. Let's see. Alrighty. There we go. Oh, it's because they're not. Oh, so they can't. Oh, I got it. All right. No problem. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya. The song slaps. I love this song too. One day you'll meet the person who wrote this. See ya.